Hi and welcome. It's Michigan's AutoTalk Podcast. This is episode number 48, or somewhere in an alternate universe, number 84, but that's down the line. Every episode, I'm producer Phil Tower. In just a moment, we'll introduce you to the host of this here podcast. Every episode of Michigan's AutoTalk is all about celebrating the automobile and trucks, plus everything automotive. We're also about helping you and supporting you, car and truck owners across our great state of Michigan, birthplace of everything automotive. We are back. We've got the team back together. Episode 47 was just me and our friend Jeff Gilbert, the automobile reporter from CBS News Radio. On this episode, we are staring at gas pumps everywhere, guys. Al, John, $3.89 as of when we're taping this today. $3.89 a gallon. Yes, you guys seeing anything higher where you are?
No, that's about the highest I see just looking at like Gas Buddy right now. Yep. But check this out. The Circle K, that brand new one that's on the corner of Broadmoor and 68th Street that they made because of all the Amazon goings on there, they're at $3.44, but Costco and Sam's Club is at $3.57.
Oh, they're undercutting Costco.
No,
really?
I think there's somebody who's going to be fired because we all know that the price of the gas in the ground really didn't go up, but everybody, they raise it.
Yeah.
And I think somebody just missed the thing. One of the guys that works for us told me today that he was at a corner where there's gas stations, kitty corner the other day, and there was like a 25 cent difference between the two because somebody was slow going out and changing the prices, So he goes, that gas station's empty and the one across the street's got cars waiting to get in because a quarter's a quarter.
Yeah.
But, it's the worst time of year right now to try to get good fuel mileage. Mm-hmm. You know what was in the teens this morning when you left, John?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. And it was
ran Leah to the bus, and it only got into the 30s. So cars need heat to run in that. But there's some things out there that people are saying about mileage, and this cracks me up. The very first one is ditch the MPG ratings. Everybody gets what they get in their vehicle individually, not what some fudge number. It's one thing if you're looking at a car that only comes with one engine, like a Toyota Prius. But if you look at like a pickup truck, you can have anywhere from a V6 to a, what's Ford got now, 6.2 liter. They all got 6 liter plus engines. Guess what? When they do the economy run for the government, they don't have the big Hemi in that Dodge. Yeah. It's got the little 3.6 V6, and a lightweight little driver with a very pansy little gas pedal foot,
Exactly. It's got a tailwind pushing them, and it's a clean, straight 55 mile an hour, no braking, no nothing. And the one thing I will say with the gas mileage, and this is my little commentary, and then Al, you can continue on with your list, but I drive what I would assume is pretty much the ideal drive in terms of gas mileage. I go on a 2-lane road, 55 miles an hour, pretty much from my house to the shop. And that's without I see maybe one stoplight, if that. Right. And the worst thing I got to do is stop for deer. Other than that, it's just a straight cruise, and there is nothing I get close to what my truck was rated for.
Oh, right.
So right. I don't know how they come up with this stuff, because I look at the
gears and engine and everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. I look at the engine and the calculation of what they say should be, and there's nothing. And I look at what their settings are, and I pretty much run that, and I don't get it remotely.
Because you're remotely close to it. Less than what they say. And you know what? It's 2022. They ought to at least, and I mean, now when you spec out a vehicle, like a truck is the only place where you get to choose your gear ratios. Mm-hmm. But they have, you can tell there's certain gears they only put with certain engines.
Yeah.
So that being the case, why don't, it's 2022 with all the information we've got, why don't we say that, Mr. Customer, your car that you're buying, instead of the 4-cylinder in your Camry, you're getting the V6 and you're getting the sport suspension package and the tall tires and everything else, and you're only going to get this kind of mileage. I mean, they should be able to, even from computer simulation, come up with something more actual than what they get away with right now. The manufacturer's been screwing that over for years.
Yeah, well, and there's been so much of a, I look at like the GM, the 3.6s that they're putting in the Colorados, and they have been, and I should say, and they also do like the 3.9s where, I want the power and I want the gas mileage. The way I look at it, it's like, I would rather, if I need to tow something, I don't care about gas mileage. I want it to pull the house off its foundation. If I want gas mileage, then I need to, I'm not going to be able to do what I, could pull with my old truck or whatever. But there seems to be no common sense of like, hey, the saying goes, you want your cake and you want to eat it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they've come away. Go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, and you have some tips for saving gas mileage when gas is near $4 a gallon. We're going to talk about those, but I was just going to say, does it come down to this, that if you're going to buy a big, beefy truck like both of you drive, you just know you're going to pay more, and just shut up about it. Although you can, you can do a few things,
and most people do. And, I mean, because they've got the big trailers and the toy haulers, and they, burn gas and everything all weekend long in their boats. But I got to tell you that it used to be, as a Ford truck owner, if you had a small block, you got to 10. Whether you were towing or running empty down the highway, you got 10 miles a gallon. And if you got a big block, you got 8. And that's just, you had a 460 and a 3/4 ton, you got 8 all the time. And Fords were always geared, so it didn't matter if it was working or not. Now I get like 16.2. They claim it's 20, and I can get that when the weather's right, going downhill, like from the UP down to Grand Rapids. I can get like 20, just over 20. But for the most part, it's like 16, and that's double what it used to be. I mean, it's amazing what they've done. And I've got a 400 horsepower truck, in the 1980s, a 351 4-barrel high output Ford truck was a freaking dog. I mean, it didn't have enough power to pull its own weight. All it did was suck gas, and they had no power. They were disgusting. And now I've got 3 times the horsepower and something that gets good mileage. So we're getting there, and we're getting better. But a lot of it's about the way you drive. And, they say, first off, the skinny pedal sucks gas. And you ever consciously drive for mileage and you get that feel of your vehicle where it's just happy? You're not really pushing it. You know what I mean? When it's just kind of like cruising around, and maybe the people on the highway are buzzing by you because they're all driving 90 and you're just back there about 68, 69, but it just feels right and the numbers come up. And, another thing they say that is you got to watch the braking too. All brakes do is take forward energy and turn them into heat, which slows down the vehicle, which has nothing to do with fuel economy, except when you brake and you bring the thing down, you got to step on the skinny pedal to get the thing back up to where it was before, and that's where you're wasting mileage. Yeah. And some of these other things they say that I never really thought about, but get all the crap out of your vehicle, keep it light. We have customers that come in that have more than what their car's gross vehicle weight rating is in crap in their cars, and especially pickups. It's like they don't have dumpsters, so they throw everything in the back of the pickup. That's killing your mileage wise. And they're talking about filling up the tank. Now, I disagree with that because I was always told it was 7.75 pounds a gallon in drag racing school, but they say a gallon of gas is 8.34 pounds. So instead of filling it up all the way, fill it up halfway, lose that weight, get better mileage. What do you think of that, John?
I think you're pretty much splitting hairs for the average guy that's driving.
Of course you are, but
exactly. I mean,
don't you ever go out and say, this month I'm going to see what kind of mileage I can get? Don't you? You've never done that?
I used to do that, but now I am one of those guys that has probably 3 pounds of toys for Junior in his back. With the car seats and all that. So I think it's, for the most part, that, I mean, you can calculate that stuff and like, oh yeah, I am, getting better gas mileage because
Vacuum out those Cheerios under the back.
Yeah, well, like I'm only running half a tank, so that's why I get good gas mileage. And then AAA comes out because you ran out of gas and you didn't do your math right. But I don't know. I think I get it, but I think that mindset is not practical for
here's the deal.
daily driver stuff.
Right, you drive a Kia Sedona or something back and forth to work, that's not going to matter.
Yeah.
I've got 36 gallons worth of fuel in my tank, and that 800-pound difference driving up and down 28th Street chasing parts will make a difference. I guarantee you I can see that. So
yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And I just like to do it because then I don't feel like anybody can accuse me of like road rage. If I'm driving for mileage, I let things go that normally I don't let go. As far as like the bright lights and the horn and the fingers and stuff like that. When I'm driving for mileage, I give everybody a little, I give them a little pass on that stuff. So that's just my secret thing.
You get better mileage or worse mileage with a middle finger?
Oh, better.
Okay.
Giggles per mile anyway. Another thing they talk about is idling in traffic. And I will tell you, I've got the truck that shuts off by itself, and that makes a difference. I've actually
huge.
Trying to do just the run to Berger Chevrolet, run to Fox Ford, whatever, up and down 28th Street. I spent a week where I shut it off every time, just like Bob Verburg, because he's like, why is it? I get to decide when to shut off my truck, not my truck's computer. And then I've let it do its thing. And it does. It's like 3/10 a difference when you're doing that. And you think about, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 28th Street and East Beltline, you're setting through a couple lights. Yeah, it's still burning some fuel.
Yeah. Well, and especially with, so much this time of year, you've got the heater running, so it may not shut off right away. And there's other factors that come into play with it. But you think like
I manipulate that.
Exactly. Yeah. But like you think around like let's say a fall, late fall or like a early spring where it's not, you're not run the air or anything.
Yeah.
And that thing shuts off. It does so much, and I really think
your Tahoe have that.
It does not. It's the older. It's
just curious, but it does make a huge difference. The other thing they say is using cruise control, which is that depends. I can get better mileage with my foot than I can with cruise control if I try. Like I said, when I'm not whipping the bird and honking and doing lights and I'm just being chill and trying to get mileage. But generally speaking, if you're cruising down the road, head bobbing to the radio, you put it on the cruise control and because it uses vacuum and RPM signals and stuff, it'll do a better job than you will.
Well, and I was always wondering. I was always wondering too with when they came out with this study, is it the adaptive cruise control or the old-fashioned cruise control?
It's got to be the old-fashioned.
Exactly, because the adaptive, that thing is, I've done it a couple times when we go on road trips down south. It rolls, but when it needs to like catch up or bring you back to whatever your
4 gears,
exactly, whatever, like it brings you back to that. Oh, I'm cruising at 70. It drops down
and to 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, and then it brings you back up, and it just like
quicker than you can do it with your foot. That's what I want to know, how they do that. How the computer can accelerate you up there quicker than you can do.
It drops like 4 gears and hammers it, and then I've done it a couple times, and I'm just like, okay, and I just turn it off because I'm like, I don't, I'm not, we're not hammering it down. I don't need to just cruise. Let's just get going. And so you walk in. So I was, whenever you see those ratings, it always kind of, once you have one of those vehicles that has that system, it's like, I don't know if I agree with that. Would that be the way I'm driving? Same thing with the whole like.
Of course you wouldn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, I've got an obvious one here, which I've played around with it. Unfortunately, it's true, and we all know it's true. If you are normally an 80 mile an hour on the highway driver, and you drop to 72 or so, which of course will annoy a lot of people. You'll get there eventually. It's going to take a few minutes longer. You're going to get maybe half mile to a mile, or maybe more.
It's
a big
huge.
difference.
I mean, every vehicle's got its sweet spot, and you watch that tech, you don't want to lug it, and you can figure out what it is on your vehicle for sure. Because if I go like 1250, which gets me 70, 71. I mean, they're coming up. It used to be they made their best mileage at like 55, and if you drove 60, you were screwing yourself. And they have geared them a little bit different. And, the modern engines make their horsepower at higher RPMs, which is good for us. But like 1250 RPM is where I get peak mileage on my truck. If you go lower than that and you lug it, it actually makes it worse. And the tranny's not happy. It's kicking between 10th and 8th and back and forth and everything else. But yeah, just backing it down a little bit. There's a guy who makes his living on the radio working with the people in the trucking industry. And he's just like, I've owned a fleet. This is the deal. He drives, a lot of places the speed limit for trucks is 60. And when the speed limits for trucks were 60, he drove 58. And he goes, you know what? I drive 58 miles an hour. If my guys drive 50 miles an hour or 58 miles an hour, I might pay them a few extra hours every week at their time to get somewhere. But the gas mileage increase is so big. He says, I'll give you an extra $2 an hour. It doesn't matter. I'm saving that much over the year. And, another thing that we see right now because of the cold weather that is huge is your tires and how they're inflated. And we rarely see overinflated tires, which is only bad for the tire. It's not bad for mileage, but we see underinflated tires even with TPMS systems all the time. And that for me, I think is one of the biggest overlooked things that, is out there, along with like how many plugged up air filters do we see, how, your regular maintenance and your oil changes and your things like that. And, buying quality gas and the gas that belongs in your vehicle. There's some vehicles that have octane requirements, and we've been through this a million times, John and I, with customers and stuff. And if it calls for it and you give it to it, it's happier. So you just have to do the math and say, do I put regular gas in the one that calls for premium? And this is the biggest problem with all mileage things. Nobody's willing to go out and do the math, and it's not all that difficult. But it's like your car will adapt to crappy gas if it calls for premium. But what it normally does is enrich in the fuel mixture and retard the timing, which gives you less performance, reduces your
consumption.
Economy. So, you might be better off putting the expensive stuff in it because you might get 3 miles a gallon better, and then it pays for itself.
Yeah. Well, and I've always seen, I've never done like a technical test, but whenever I go the 1 or 2 times I actually get out on the highway and go somewhere, I always look at the RPMs. I don't necessarily look at my mile per hour or my speed and compare to other people, but if I can keep it around the 1200 range, that's kind of like almost the sweet spot. So sometimes it's pulling up and I'm going, 50 or like not 55, but you go like 70 or so, and then other times that same RPM you're going like 80. If you keep it around
on the
that,
road,
exactly. That for me, that's the sweet spot, because that's where the engine is most happy, most volumetric efficiency is there, and when you're exactly, and when you're trying to pull like 80 constantly, you're just kind of playing that same game of like, oh, I got cruise control on at 80, and you hear that thing just hammer down, drop gears, and go to town. So there's a lot of difference in that, but for me, it's just it's an RPM game, not so much a speedo game.
You know what? We got to do something real quick here, Phil. There is an app called Automatic. That you can put on your phone, and it will tell you if you're accelerating too fast or hitting the brakes too hard, or you're doing things to ruin your economy. I'm sure there'll be other ones coming out.
Oh, it uses the gyro in your phone. Okay.
Exactly. And there's a lot of people out
you
there
need
right
an
now.
app. You need an app to tell you if you're braking too hard. I mean, come on.
Some people do. Come on.
Where have we?
There's a lot
what
of
has this
people out
come
there
to,
now that
man?
are talking about taping up the air gaps in your car. No, when gas hits $5 a gallon, we're going to see all this strange stuff. There's going to be foil over the wheels that's going to be taped on. You're going to have gaps around the headlights taped out because people are freaking out about that. But here's the thing. If I go out and I get like my average 16.4 miles a gallon, and in the winter it's like 16.2, at the end of the day, even with 36 gallons, the minor difference between the two, when you're talking $100 to fill a tank and it's $4, really?
Yeah.
Do we drink $4 worth of beer in a night and don't even think about it and just throw it down the toilet, So people get so worked up about
piss it down the toilet.
And they will spend so much money to fix something that mathematically just doesn't work. Just drive smart and get what your vehicle can. Thank God that our cars today get way better economy than they ever have.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like you said at the beginning of the episode, and we got to put the wraps on this. The Ford trucks from 30 years ago or even 20 years ago versus today, Ford, GM, whatever, the fuel technology, fuel efficiency technology, all the aspect of course, computers, they're the reason it happens, and a lot of other engineering that goes into it. Real quick, we want to shout out the fact that we're planning to get a hold of the guy who used to own the Batmobile, or does he still own it?
No, he still does. He built the Batmobile, man.
Okay.
It's
all
like
right.
Whatever. We're working on getting him on. The dude's got a Batmobile that's like the original real deal. It was a project gone crazy that I think the first time I saw it was probably 30 years ago, and it's cool. It's got all the stuff. It's awesome, and we are working on. He's a local guy, and having him come on because he loves the Batmobile, and he'll be an awesome guest.
And he still drives it.
Oh yeah,
parades and
when new Batman movies come out and that, he shows up on opening night at the movie theaters. They call him up actually, and he comes out. It's cool.
Yeah,
we've got some pictures and stuff on the Facebook page of that.
That's right. We've got a movie coming out called The Batman, which I think just came out. So perfect time for that. And that will put the wraps on episode 48, closing in on 50, closing in on a pretty big number. So until next time, whenever that would be, hopefully less than a week from now, I'm producer Phil Tower.
I'm Al Schwinkendorf.
I'm John Puhek. Thanks for listening. Have a good time.